I was assaulted by a police officer in 2018 and I was accused of assaulting him and taken to trial. So back in 2015, it was kind of the height of the Syrian civil war. I, at that time, decided to take some annual leave to go volunteer with Help Refugees at the big jungle camp in Calais, because I just couldn't look the other way when I saw people suffering and needing help. I met some wonderful people there who have so much to give to the world, and I decided at that point I was going to save some money to leave my job and go volunteer there long term. My family were a bit shocked about me deciding to do that, but they supported me, and obviously they were worried. I think they always thought I could do something like this, but they just didn't expect me to just pack my bags and leave one day to do it.
These young people that are there helping, they're just amazing. They're just the most lovely people, not troublemakers. They just want to help. So to see the treatment, there was just no empathy for the migrants and no empathy for the people who were working.
I got there in the middle of winter. Big camp had been destroyed by that point. Hundreds of people just sleeping rough in the snow. There was one time even when I went for a shower, I woke up in the morning, my hair was like frozen to my head. So it must be awful for the people living with no shelter at all. I used to love snow when I was a kid, and now it just makes me sad to think of all the people still suffering there, because they are still there and they still need our help. We, as the volunteers, supported each other and helped each other through that, and just did what we could to help the people that were sleeping rough. There were constant kind of police clearances. There were allegations of violence and harassment against volunteers and the migrants living in the area. In the kind of run-up to the incident, I was doing aid distributions, and I was also taking part in, it was called human rights observation. There were main areas where people were sleeping rough, and the NGOs would try and provide them with some tents or sleeping bags or whatever we could to keep them as much as we could out of the cold. The police would come and they'd remove the tents and the sleeping bags and other people's possessions and things like that. So on the day it happened, which was in the end of July 2018, me and my colleague, we were driving, just doing our usual job basically of driving around the main living areas just to check up on people and make sure they were safe and no one was being hurt or anything like that, and to provide water and things like that. And noticed a group of CRS officers with what turned out to be another group of volunteers from another organisation. They were kind of having some kind of discussion, argument, I don't know what it was with them, and we stopped to film what was going on. It's just because we had allegations of intimidation and volunteers and things before. We just wanted to make sure they were okay. And they were on their way to distribute breakfast, but were being prevented from doing that by the CRS. As we were filming, the CRS kind of forcibly moved the group over the road. They kicked one of the volunteers, kicked him again.
Go away!
They threw another volunteer's phone to the floor when he was trying to film. And I was filming at the time. I said, that's illegal, c'est illegal. And I don't know if that actually means that, but my French isn't great. But I then asked for his RAA number, which is his badge number. And as he came towards me, I read it out, and he struck the girl next to me.
Hey, do not live with it.
As I said don't hit women, don't hit her. I mean, you shouldn't hit anyone, but yeah, you shouldn't. Yeah, I was trying to appeal to his better nature, I guess. And he pushed me backwards over a barrier into oncoming traffic.
Are you serious?
And a lorry was maybe a metre or so away from crushing me and could easily have killed me.
It still upsets me now because he was that far from being killed, from his skull being crushed.
After that, I was then pinned to the floor, and he kind of had his knee in the back of my head. There was like a lump from that, which was on my medical report at the police station. I was then arrested, detained for 36 hours, and I've never been arrested or anything before, so it was a bit of a weird experience. I could hear people crying out for help in the night and things. It was a pretty grim experience, and the whole time I was just kind of going over the story in my head. It kind of didn't register how close the truck was to hitting me, and rather than terrified, I was just kind of in a bit of shock as to why I was being arrested, because I hadn't done anything wrong. And
this young man, he literally will not hurt a fly, and we knew that they were lying, and the things they were accusing him were not Tom.
For the first 24 hours or so, I wasn't able to speak to anyone until I managed to get my phone call, and I spoke to my mum, and she was with the Help Refugees and some people from Amnesty at the time.
Et votre rayon?
Et alors?
Un rayon?
Mon quoi?
Vous n'en avez pas?
Non, j'en ai pas.
Pourquoi? C'est pas la loi?
Comme ça.
So when I was released, my parents were waiting nearby. I was charged with outrage and violence against an officer. So at the time, I was worried as to whether I was going to end up in jail, because I think the maximum sentence was something like 15 years in prison, and I think if the video evidence hadn't have been there, who are you going to believe, a member of the public or the police? Like, they're in a position of authority, they should be following the law. The officers knew they were being filmed, so I'm not quite sure how they thought they would get away with it.
C'est pour ça que ce cas est extrêmement important et emblématique, c'est que c'est souvent la parole du bénévole contre la parole des policiers. C'est très difficile de pouvoir prouver et obtenir justice. Là, il se trouve qu'effectivement, toute la scène a été filmée.
So it was over a year before my trial, and it didn't have that much faith after everything that had happened. And the prosecutor was still pushing for a 6-month suspended sentence, even after seeing all the video footage. So yeah, it was worrying, not knowing what the outcome would be. It was kind of weird being back there. The camp sleeping areas were still there when we drove past and things like that. People were still struggling there. So that kind of gave me the courage to kind of go through with the trial, give my statement and my evidence of what had happened. When it got to the trial, luckily all the video evidence was there. I had a really great lawyer who argued my case well, and I was acquitted of all charges at the trial. I felt happy that I'd been acquitted, just disappointed that it happened in the first place, and upset that those kind of things may still be happening to volunteers or to people, the people that they support in Calais. It was just a huge waste of money for myself, but a huge waste of money for the taxpayer. Why did this even happen in the first place? Why was I brought to trial for something I hadn't done? After that, I had put in a complaint against the police officers for assault and for forgery in writing.
Puis les vidéos filmées par des associatifs présents ce jour-là sont diffusées. La procureure pointe alors du doigt les nombreuses incohérences entre les propos des CRS et les faits tels qu'ils sont perçus sur les vidéos, mais aussi des changements de version avec les précédentes auditions.
As far as I'm aware, in Calais, there's been very few instances where police have been, or CRS have been held to account for their actions. The chief CRS officer was found guilty of assault and forgery in writing, and he was given a 18-month suspended prison sentence, and I think a year ban from office. So I was happy to see some justice being done and him being held to account. I obviously forgive him for what he did. I don't hold a grudge against him. It didn't have to get to that point. After pushing me in the road, he could have apologised and not accused me of all those things, and it probably wouldn't have got to this point. I would say to the officer that, of course, I forgive you, and I just hope that you don't do this kind of thing again, and you respect your position of power, and you follow the law that you're meant to be there to uphold.
What's your RAN number? Hey, do not hit women.
I would say the incident has made me want to do even more to help the situation there and prevent the same thing happening to someone else. There are people in Calais who don't have that privilege, who might not have had people to film what happened, might not have been able to get a lawyer to help them, who are suffering in silence there. The incident that day, I would do exactly the same thing if I saw it happening now. If I saw the police assaulting people, I would film it and tell them what they're doing is wrong. And yeah, I'm kind of just more disappointed in the system that put him there in the first place.
Un argument de la crédibilité des autorités que reprend lors de ces réquisitions la procureure en criant à la honte, honte pour les policiers, les enquêteurs et la justice.
Like why was riot police being used for what's a humanitarian disaster? Surely we're better than that. Surely the French state should be working with NGOs and human rights defenders to make sure abuses aren't happening and vulnerable people are being protected. Yeah, I mean, you see in the news almost on a daily basis of human rights defenders and other people around the world who are facing the same kind of thing. My message to Amnesty International supporters is thank you for supporting me and people like me around the world, and please carry on what you're doing. We can fight against injustice, and we can try and make a difference one step at a time.